Well, here I am making the paper Christmas tree out of a book. I'm so glad that I did pre-tape some of this because I was very surprised that so many of you wanted to see how I made this DIY tutorial on making the tree. And I'm also glad I taped it because I really didn't remember all of the steps that I took. So as I was editing this, I also made a second tree that you'll see after this one. They came out very similar, but I did a few different things that I wish I did the first time. And then I tried something different. And what I think I'm saying to you is that you really can't go wrong with this. It's how you want to make it, how you want to create it. And you'll see I was very rough with this. I don't care if pages fall out or things fall out. It's a tree. There's no natural, very perfect trees out in the world. And there's not going to be a perfect book tree either. So just have fun with it if you want to do this. Now, I will warn you, it's time consuming, but I found it very relaxing. I was able to fold the pages while I was sitting watching a video. Might be able to see I have my laptop even there in front of me. So it's just finding time to do it and allowing yourself to just be in the moment. Now, I started this project with some books that I already had on my shelf. I purchased them just because I liked the spine color, but I've never really read them, opened them. They're old books on how to raise children. They even talk about rickets and everything. It's just something that I didn't need to have on my shelves anymore, but I am going to save the spines for another project. So I took the book cover off, making sure that the pages were still adhered, and I just proceeded to start folding them. Now, I have mentioned, and I know I've gotten some other people saying that their parents used to do this with them with the Reader's Digest, and that is exactly how I learned. And I think I've come to realize it was probably a way of keeping us children busy because this took quite a while depending on the book size you have. So I went along, and this is what the angel was. You would put like a ball top or an ornament top, and then you could shape the wings. And my mother used to, I think she sprayed it gold. So that was a project that had some memories. But I took it a step further. I kept folding the pages, once again in on itself, making sure that they were nice and tight because it gets thick. And I just kept doing that also. Now I think this book is about 210 pages or so, just to give you an idea for size. You can use very thick magazines if you want. It's just using what you have. Now, once you do the folding, there's these little tabs, and I just cut those tabs off so that it would sit flat onto the table. And here is the finished cone, and honestly, this is as far as I was going to go. I was going to leave it like this. But when I saw that little tear, it made me realize I could keep going, and I'm going to cut things. Oh, I'm showing that I was going to make a star with those, and it just didn't work out. But that could be an idea. So I ended up grabbing the tree and did upward cuts, and then I made little chunky cuts. I think you can see there what I was doing. It's hard to show with one hand, but I went upwards towards the spine, and then I would cut out a little piece. Now I'm going to make a note that these are still folded, so I had trouble at the end to make them fluffy, so I had to then cut all those folded edges, which in the second part of this video, you'll see me do that first. But I just kept cutting, and the more I went, the shaggier it got. And at this point, I think I already had cut off the folded edges because I realized that it just wasn't working. And I also found that if I cut too many together, that they stuck together and they didn't fluff as nice. And here I'm just like really just going around and being rough with it and fluffing it up. Now here is book number 2, and what I did this time is I folded it exactly the same way for the first 2 steps of folding, but I'm cutting off that fold and I'm going up to the top but not too close because that's kind of what holding the pages in. But I will let you know that I wish I went a little bit further up because I ended up having to do that later in the process. So once again, I can grab about 2 pages at a time to trim this, and if a page falls out or if something gets ruined, don't worry about it. It's not going to be seen. And then I'm cutting off those little tips again so that it will stand up straight. Now, just like the first paper tree, I cut upwards towards the spine, but this time I didn't do any or as many jagged cuts. I wanted to see what would happen. So I just did a lot of thin strips, and I could have went further, but honestly, since this was the second prototype tree, I didn't go as into detail. But I'm really raking hard at this, and if you are afraid you're going to hurt it, you might not get the same effect. I really was rough with it. I didn't care if something fell out, if something pulled apart, I just pushed it back in. It's really just taking out a little aggression, I guess. But what I'm going to show next is that I mentioned earlier I wish I trimmed up higher. This is what happened, and I had to go back and I cut a lot of those folds as close to the top as I could. Now, I'm also going to start pulling out some of the little tips because that's what I did on the first tree, but I couldn't leave it alone. I decided, or I thought, what if I were to wet the tree? Because I wanted to spray it with like a tea saturation a little bit, but at first I just wet my hands and I ended up scrunching it, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But right now I guess I'm having way too much fun pulling out these tips. But the wetting it down, it was just something I tried. Once again, do what you want to do. It's your tree, and get creative. Something might come out of this that is unexpected. So what the watering did is, yesterday I got a little nervous because it was all like really tight, but I woke this morning and I brushed it, and once it was dry, and it did fluff it up a little bit. It took a little bit of the harshness off, and you could see that the top, I did kind of rough that up a bit as well. Now we need a topper. I don't have any at home here right now, but what about one of these peony stars? There's so many things I could try from this hutch. How about the top of an acorn? No. How about an acorn? That's kind of cute, but I got something else I can try. How about a dog? I think you get the picture. You could use anything you want for the topper. Tag you're it. Now it's your turn to make this book paper Christmas tree. Enjoy. Once again, thank you for visiting New England Fine Living's Home and Lifestyle channel. I really appreciate you sticking around when I show you some of the craft projects, the decorating, the holiday decorating, and our travel tips. I really have fun sharing with you. If there's something that you'd like to see here on my channel, why don't you comment below? And if you haven't already and you like the video, I'd love a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I welcome you to do so, and you will become one of our kindred spirits. Bye now.